We are going to get into our what if segment of the evening. Kyle, what do you got for us, man?
Yeah, so the what if segment that we have for today is we are going to recap the last Super Bowl that took place in Tampa. I believe it took place in 2009. It was a matchup between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Arizona Cardinals. It was coming off the heels of one of the biggest Super Bowls of all time with the New England Patriots and the New York Giants the year before. And I'll tell you what, this Super Bowl definitely lived up to expectations and then some. It was an absolutely fantastic game. Came right down to the end, and the Steelers ended up winning the Super Bowl by the score of 27-23 over the Arizona Cardinals. But the what if question is, what if the Arizona Cardinals were able to pull off this win against the Pittsburgh Steelers? What would the impact have been had Kurt Warner won his second Super Bowl title instead of Big Ben winning his second title as the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers? I'll ask that question to you. What was the overall impact of this game to you?
So I think it changes the narrative and it changes the dynamic of that year and that off season. I mean, Ben came off of getting drafted in 2004, winning a Super Bowl in 2005, and then going right back to the Super Bowl 4 years later. So I mean, he won pretty much two Super Bowls in the first 5 years of his career. And I mean that was pretty much by and large to the dominance of the Pittsburgh defense in the early 2000s. I mean, Ben kind of came into a perfect situation where that defense was absolutely insane. I mean, you go down the list of superstars, I mean, it's pretty endless. I mean, you have Troy Polamalu, Ike Taylor, Ryan Clark, and just absent what Lawrence Timmons. Uh, God, just thinking of the Pro Bowlers that were just on this team, it's incredible. But
Mm-hmm.
the offense of this team was just so prolific. They had Willie Parker, Hines Ward, Antonio Holmes, Heath Miller, a young and mobile Ben Roethlisberger, a healthy Ben Roethlisberger, because we all know the injuries he's accumulated throughout the integrity of his career. But to switch the narrative and for the Arizona Cardinals to go and upset the veteran Pittsburgh Steelers would have been incredible. Larry Fitzgerald would have got a ring to add to his illustrious Hall of Fame career. Anquan Bolden would have had two rings because he got one with Baltimore, I believe, a few years later. And Kurt Warner would have won two Super Bowls with two different franchises. And that would have been the St. Louis Rams in 2000 or 2001. I believe it was 2000, the greatest show on turf.
Yep.
And he would have won it with the Arizona Cardinals with the firepower that they had. I mean, Ken Wisenhunt had a great team, a great organization. You know, looking at the highlights of the game and remembering some of the game, there were some questionable calls throughout the whole thing, and I really do think that Arizona kind of shot themselves in the foot not being able to convert on third down and not being able to overcome the dominance of the Pittsburgh defense early. But with them having that resurgence in the fourth and kind of showing that they had the willpower and the willingness, well, willpower and willingness, same word, but the awareness to say, yo, this is it, we got 11 and 12 minutes left, this is what we need to do. And none other than Hall of Fame quarterback Kurt Warner leading them down and scoring, and then Arizona's defense having to step up in the fourth, creating a stop, creating a safety. Larry Fitzgerald, I believe, scores on a slant route late in the fourth with about 2 or 3 minutes left, and he
Yep.
runs in between two safeties and beats cover two zone. And then Pittsburgh has that historic drive with Hines Ward, or excuse me, Santonio Holmes getting four catches on the entire drive for 74 yards in the game-winning touchdown. To this day, that is one of the greatest catches I've ever seen in my life, and one of the best balls I've ever seen thrown in history. So to say that Kurt Warner would have been able to do that on his end, or Kurt Warner would have been able to overcome this team, would have been detrimental to his career. And I think that the game changer for that game, like we discussed prior to the episode, was that James Harrison pick six before the half. I think that absolutely changed the chemistry, or should I say the dynamic of the game. I think that changed the momentum, and I think that gave Pittsburgh full blown, this is what we can do, and this is how we're going to run the rest of this game. So there were a lot of intriguing moments. I think that was an amazing Super Bowl. I was cheering for Arizona, sadly, but to say that Kurt Warner would have had two rings instead of Ben, I think that would have been incredible.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think kind of the road that Arizona got to the Super Bowl, I think people forget about the circumstances that led to them actually getting to the Super Bowl in the first place. So they ended up winning the NFC West at a 9-7 record. So they weren't necessarily the most impressive team going into the playoffs. Yes, they won their division in the NFC West, but when you look at the NFC that year, the Giants were the number one seed, and the Giants ended up actually getting upset by Philly in the divisional round, and Philly was the sixth seed at the time. So Arizona was able to get to the NFC Championship after beating Carolina. Carolina was a two seed at the time, and Arizona absolutely beat the brakes off of Carolina, winning by 33-13. And then they got a favorable matchup at home in the NFC Championship game against Philly, who was the sixth seed, and ended up beating them to go to the Super Bowl. So, and even despite that, going up against Pittsburgh, now Pittsburgh was the two seed coming into the Super Bowl that year, and they finished the year at 12-4. So going into this game, I think by and large, Pittsburgh was the favorite to win this game. Now they ended up winning this game, but it was a lot more competitive than I thought it would be. Now, I was a little bit different than you because I was actually rooting for the Steelers. My mom, she was born and she was raised in Pittsburgh. She had somewhat of a emotional attachment to Pittsburgh when they got to the Super Bowl that year. So I was definitely rooting for the Steelers, even though I was a Patriot fan at the time. And to me, this game really turned on its head when James Harrison got that pick six. I really think that this game could have gone completely differently had James Harrison not got that pick six at the end of the first half. Because if you actually watch that play, as James Harrison's running down the sideline trying to score, you got Larry Fitzgerald, who was trailing him the entire time, but he's catching up to him. However, as he's getting close to him within probably about 4 to 5 yards of James Harrison, he actually runs into one of his own teammates on the sideline because one of his teammates was actually on the sideline but standing a little bit too far out and actually impeded Larry Fitzgerald's progress to go get James Harrison. And I really think back to if his teammate did not get in Larry's way, there's a very good chance that Larry Fitzgerald ends up tackling him within the 5-yard line or so. I don't think that James Harrison actually gets that touchdown there if Larry's progress is not impeded. Now, with that said, it didn't happen because James Harrison gets the touchdown. It puts them up, I believe, 2 possessions going up in the halftime. And despite that, Arizona was able to come back, and they were able to have a dominant fourth quarter, putting up 2 touchdowns, and they were also able to get a safety before they ended up getting a go-ahead touchdown by Larry Fitzgerald with about 2-3 minutes left in the game. But like you said, Arizona had a very good chance of stopping Pittsburgh and getting a Super Bowl championship. However, they couldn't stop Santonio Holmes, and he was a difference maker. I mean, just looking at the stat line that Santonio Holmes had in that game, he had 9 catches for $131 and a touchdown. The touchdown ended up being the game-winning touchdown. Just an absolutely sensational performance from him. And as far as the impact of the game goes, it gave Big Ben a huge boost to his career. I mean, at that point, he had won 2 Super Bowl championships within the first 5 to 6 years of his career. And mind you, he was still going up against competent quarterbacks like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. I believe Manning only had 1 Super Bowl title at the time, and Tom Brady had 3. So Big Ben was in the middle of the pack and actually probably the number 2 guy at the time, even though I thought Peyton was a better quarterback. But as far as championship goes, that Super Bowl win propelled him in front of Peyton as far as his career achievements goes. Now, since then, he got to 1 Super Bowl, and that's really all that they've gotten from Big Ben since. But yeah, this game could have had a completely different historical impact had the Cardinals been able to win this out and be able to stop Santonio Holmes and the Pittsburgh Steelers on that last-minute drive, the last 2-minute drive that they had in the fourth quarter. So Kurt Warner, he would become another quarterback that won a Super Bowl with 2 different teams. And it would have been, to me, it would have been a nice cap for him to end his career on, going out and really bringing a team that wasn't necessarily the odds-on favorite to get to the Super Bowl and win it that year, But to go out at the age that he was, I don't remember the age he was. I believe he was in his late 30s. I don't think he was 40 yet. But that would have been a great way to end his career. Larry Fitzgerald would have been his performance would have been totally vindicated. I mean, he had 7 catches for 127 yards and 2 touchdowns. Absolutely outstanding performance. Just it went all for naught just because that the Steelers had a great drive at the end of the game. Like you said, Big Ben threw one of the best passes that I ever seen. Threw it over 3 defenders on that touchdown to Santonio Holmes. Just what a throw by Big Ben. But yeah, it would have changed the course of really the Pittsburgh Steelers Super Bowl aspirations, I think, just because at that point they were going up against teams like the Patriots, Indianapolis. They always had to contend with Baltimore. So I think there may have been some things that may have happened after that Super Bowl that may have not gone in Pittsburgh's favor had they actually lost that game, but they ended up winning it, and they ended up getting their 6th total Super Bowl championship as a team. So yeah, a lot of what ifs in the Super Bowl, but that was the last Super Bowl that was hosted in Tampa, and now we have the one that's upcoming in just a couple of days with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.